Every day, billions of people reach for a small device sitting beside their keyboard and don't think twice about it. But the computer mouse has a remarkable origin story. It was born in a research lab, dismissed by industry giants, and took nearly 2 decades to reach the hands of ordinary users. Today, we trace that journey, from a wooden box with 2 wheels to one of the most influential inventions in the history of technology. To understand why the mouse mattered, we have to go back to a time when computers were nothing like we know them today. In the 1950s and 60s, interacting with a computer meant using punch cards, physical sheets of paper with holes punched into them, each hole representing a command. You'd prepare your stack of cards, hand them to an operator, and wait. Sometimes hours, sometimes days, for a single result. As terminals became more common, users could type commands directly. But every instruction had to be memorized and typed perfectly. One wrong character could crash the entire program. There were no icons, no windows, no cursor to point with. The computer was a machine for specialists only. The idea that an ordinary person could sit down and use one intuitively? Unimaginable. Into this world came Douglas Engelbart, an electrical engineer from Oregon with an extraordinary vision. In 1945, as a young Navy radar technician, Engelbart read an article by scientist Vannevar Bush describing a hypothetical machine that could store and link human knowledge. The idea never left him. He spent the next decade working toward a single goal: using computers to augment human intelligence, to make people smarter, more creative, and better at solving complex problems. In 1957, he joined the Stanford Research Institute. In 1962, he published his landmark paper, Augmenting Human Intellect. And in 1963, backed by funding from NASA and ARPA, he began building the tools that would make his vision real, including a small pointing device he called the mouse. The first computer mouse was built in 1964, and it looked nothing like what we use today. Engelbart and his engineer Bill English carved the body from a simple block of wood. Inside, 2 metal wheels sat perpendicular to each other, one tracking left and right movement, the other tracking forward and back. On top, a single button. At the rear, a cord that trailed behind the device like a tail, which is exactly how it got its name. It was rough, it was simple, and it worked. For the first time, a person could point at something on a screen without typing a single character. The concept of direct manipulation, of reaching out and touching information, had been born. 4 years later, on December 9, 1968, Douglas Engelbart walked onto a stage at the San Francisco Convention Center before an audience of over 1,000 engineers and computer scientists. What followed would later be called the mother of all demos, the most consequential technology demonstration in history. In 90 minutes, Engelbart showed the world things that seemed like science fiction. He used the mouse to move a cursor across a screen. He clicked on hypertext links connecting one document to another. He edited text in real time while collaborating with a colleague in a different building via video conference. He cut, copied, and pasted. The audience was stunned. Many wept. Everything they were watching, the internet, collaborative software, the graphical interface, would take decades to arrive. But on that day, Engelbart had shown it was all possible. Engelbart's demo inspired the world, but it was Xerox's Palo Alto Research Center, PARC, that turned the mouse from a research prototype into something closer to a product. In the early 1970s, PARC engineers licensed Engelbart's design and went to work improving it. The 2-wheel system was replaced with a rolling ball that could track movement in any direction. The cost was brought down dramatically, from around $300 to just $25. A graphical interface was built around it, with icons, windows, and menus. The Xerox Alto, launched in 1973. The mouse and the GUI were now one system. The question was, who would bring it to the world? In 1979, Steve Jobs visited Xerox PARC and immediately understood what he was looking at. He reportedly said the mouse was the greatest thing he had ever seen, and he was going to make it for $5 and sell it to millions of people. 5 years later, Apple launched the Macintosh. It came bundled with a single-button mouse, redesigned for comfort and affordability, paired with a clean graphical interface that anyone, absolutely anyone, could learn in minutes. The Macintosh sold nearly 250,000 units in its first year. For the first time, ordinary people were sitting down at computers and actually enjoying the experience. The mouse had gone mainstream. The personal computing revolution had begun. From that wooden prototype in 1964, the mouse evolved rapidly over the following decades. The 1970s brought the ball mouse. The 1980s brought Apple's consumer version. In 1991, Logitech cut the cord entirely with the first wireless mouse. In 1999, Microsoft's IntelliMouse introduced the scroll wheel. Now so fundamental we can't imagine life without it. The 2000s brought optical and laser tracking, eliminating the ball altogether. In 2009, Apple's Magic Mouse introduced multi-touch gestures on its surface. And today, mice are being developed with haptic feedback, AI-powered precision, and health monitoring sensors. The journey continues. The numbers tell the story of just how transformative this invention became. Over 1 billion mice are sold globally every year. The market is worth $3 billion annually. More than 60 years after that first wooden prototype, the mouse is still evolving. And despite the rise of touchscreens and voice interfaces, roughly 70% of desktop users still prefer a mouse for precision work. A device that started as a research experiment that its inventor could never patent in time to profit from, became one of the defining tools of the modern world. Douglas Engelbart received the Turing Award, computing's highest honor, in 1997. But his greatest legacy isn't an award. It's the billions of people who can use computers today because of what he imagined. The mouse democratized technology. It took computing out of the hands of specialists and placed it in the hands of everyone. It inspired the touchscreen, the trackpad, the stylus. The system it was born into, NLS, was a direct ancestor of the modern Internet. And yet Engelbart himself never received royalties. His patent expired before the mouse went mainstream. He gave the world one of its most valuable tools, and the world moved on, often without knowing his name. The computer mouse is a reminder that the greatest inventions aren't always the flashiest. Sometimes they're a small wooden box, a cord, and a single button, in the hands of someone who believed people deserved better.